Hi, I'm Brad Sugars and welcome to this quick learning set on the 5 ways to grow any company. Now I know a lot of people think, well, if there's only 5 ways, there's got to be more than that. Well, there is. If you read my book Instant Cash Flow, you realise there's about 280 different ways. But this formula is the formula I'm going to teach you is the chassis of business. I always describe it back to when Ferdinand Porsche first used the chassis of a VW to create the first Porsche. You know, you can use the same chassis to have a VW, or you can use the same chassis to build a Porsche, and it's the same in business. But what you're about to learn is, I believe, the most powerful strategy you can understand about how to grow a business anywhere, anytime. And I'd really love you to make sure you send this link on to as many of your friends as possible, because we want everyone to be succeeding in business. So the way it starts, and you might want pen and paper to write this down, because it's really important to take a look at this with depth, I guess, over time. Firstly, there's 5 ways we can grow a company, and it's a simple formula. Write down first leads or prospects, whatever name you use for them. So leads, then put a multiply sign and put leads multiplied by conversion rate. So we multiply leads by conversion and we go straight through and think, well, that gives us our number of customers, doesn't it? So your leads is the potential customers. Conversion rate is, well, if 10 potential customers contacted you and you sold to 2 of them, you've got a conversion rate of 20%, don't you? So of course in that example you'd have 2 customers out of the 10 prospects that came through you. Then of course we've got the total number of customers. We want to multiply that by the number of transactions. How often does that customer buy from you? Do they buy from you weekly? Do they buy from you monthly? Do they buy from you... Well, in fact, maybe they came in once and you never ever saw them again. And that may be a majority of customers for some business people. Then we want to multiply that, so our number of customers is now multiplied by our number of transactions, and then multiply that by our average dollar sale. Hopefully you're getting these notes down. So you've got the average dollar sale now, that's the average amount spent with you, and I know some will spend $5, some will spend $5,000, but what's the average amount when they're doing a transaction with you? And then you take a look at that, those 3 things, number of customers by the number of transactions or the number of times they buy from you within a month or a year, multiplied by the average amount they spend. Well, what's that give us? That's right, it gives us our total revenue for the business, the total revenues of sales in this company. So then we multiply that by the margins, because, you know, whilst revenues are important, they're not the most important aspect of a business. Of course, margins are. So we multiply by the margins to get our profitability level. So total revenue multiplied by margin equals take-home profits. Now, in any business, we can look at these numbers, and here's the first thing. If you don't know these numbers, and the reason it's called the 5 ways, by the way, you'll notice there's 3 areas in there. In fact, these are the 3 areas when people come and work with me or one of my business coaches here at Action Coach, I find that there's 3 things they ask for. They want more customers, they want more revenues, and they want more profits. But take a look down at your page just for a second. What you'll see on your page is that, well, very clearly, they've all got an equals sign in front of them, don't they? Leads by conversion equals number of customers, multiplied by number of transactions and average revenue per client, or average dollar sale, or pound or euro, depending upon where you're watching this from. Could even be won or ringgit. In this case, that gives us our total revenue of the business. It's an equals sign again. Multiplied by margins equals profit. The problem with trying to fix any of those 3 things that have got equal sign in front of them is that they're the outcome. They're the outcome of all of the work you do in the other 5 areas. The 5 areas being the leads, conversion rate, number of transactions, average revenue per sale, and the margins of the business. So that's why we call it the 5 ways to grow your business. Now, very simply put, you should be working all 5 at the same time. You don't go to the gymnasium and only use one arm this month. You know, let's work out on my left arm. No, you build the whole thing at the same time, and that's where the synergy kicks in. See, here's a really interesting point. And this is a multiplying formula, so we're using leverage, dividing up to multiply out the end result. If we were to work in your business over the next 10 months or 2 years or however long it took for you to read all my books, watch all the videos and DVDs, learn as much as you possibly can, if we were to go through all of those different aspects and, well, eventually we were to go through everything that my coaches can work with you on one-on-one and to get it all ready fit to go, if we did that for 12 months, could you get a 10% improvement in your number of leads this year over last year? Absolutely you could. For most businesses, the focus on that, we can get a far grander scale. Over 70 strategies we have to do that for most business people. Then the second thing we'd work on, of course, is your conversion rate. So we're getting more leads, well, we also want to have better conversion. Maybe we'd work conversion first in your business. I'm not sure the one area where you need the most help. But if you were to work on conversion rates and get your conversion rates up by 10%, now that's a 10% improvement in leads and a 10% improvement in the conversion rate. So guess what that gives you? Just over 20, about 21% increase in your number of customers, just by breaking it down. And what if you broke it down even further? What if you said, well, okay, lead generation, let's break down our newspaper advertising or our yellow pages. Let's break it right down to every single strategy and get a 10% increase in each strategy. You know, these sorts of things that we can do are very powerful. In your sales or your conversion, you might have a conversion that takes a year for someone to buy. You might have an hour, or you might even have 10 seconds when they walk in and order a sandwich at a shop. You know, those sorts of things are very important to understand, but as you build your conversion rate. So we've now got about a 21% increase by over the next 12 months working together on building the two areas first and foremost, lead generation and second of all, conversion rate. Those two there, very popular lead generation for some reason. I think it's the grandness of it all. You know, go and run more advertising so everybody knows who we are. Whilst I'm on that, if your advertisement has your company name at the top, please stop running that stuff. The only person who cares about your company is you and your mother, and she named you, so you know it's her problem. But the fact is she's not going to buy a lot from you. You've got to get out there and build advertisements that work. My book, Instant Advertising, there's so many different things you can read out there on how you can do this sort of stuff. And it's really important that everybody gets out there and builds as much as they can for their business. And then the next area we're going to look at, of course, we've now got 21% increase in the number of customers that we're dealing with, so we want them to come back more often. You know, I look at it and I look at simple things. When it comes to lead generation, most people couldn't tell me how many leads they get in a week. You know, you cannot manage what you do not measure, gang. I ask people, well, what's your conversion rate? Most people say to me, oh, well, look, we're very good at that. We get about 7 or 8 out of 10. We then go and measure it for a 2 to 4 week period, and guess what we find? It's nowhere near 7 or 8 out of 10. It's more like 1, 2 or 3 out of 10. This is where there's so much opportunity in business. Then we go and take a look at your number of transactions. Well, of course, what we want to do is get people back more often. Now, if you're not writing to your past customers every 90 days at the very least, then you've lost all the rapport you built with them in the first place. These are some vital things that you can do to build your business. How often do you get back to your database of past customers? Do you even keep a database of past customers? How well do you invite them back? What strategies do you have for other products and services that they can buy from you? See, the number of business owners that come to me and I say, look, have you ever had a customer say to you anything along the lines of, well, gee, I never knew you sold that, or I never knew you could do that for me? Well, of course, they're telling you that they don't even know all the products and services you sell. So please make sure they're better educated. Finally, then we want to look at the fourth area of our 5 ways, and that's our average revenue per sale. Of course we can teach sales, of course we can script your sales better. There's so many different things we can do to bump average dollar sale. In fact, over 60 of them that our coaches work with, business owners all around the world. If we worked on, in fact, just measuring your average dollar sale in most cases actually will improve it by about 10%. So we've got 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%. We're now 4 times 10%, which if you compound it through, gang, and that's what this is all about, compounding it through, that'll get you a 46% increase in your revenue. Now, how many of you could you really enjoy a 46% increase in revenue in the next 12 months? So read all the books, work with a coach, do whatever you can do to get yourself understanding how this works. Finally, we'll work on your margins. Okay, so we're going to work on the margins for your business. Again, 50 odd strategies to do this when we work with business owners. Ultimately, it gives us a 61% increase in our bottom line. Now imagine if instead of 10% in each of the 5 areas, you could do 20%, or you could average 13% in an area, or 25%. Or like some of our clients, you can get double in some areas and half of it again in some areas and 20% in other areas. Where's your business going to be 12 months from now? And then the second year we do this, imagine you did just do 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%. And then we did the same the second year and the third year. Would you want to keep that coach? Of course you would. See, one of the great things about hiring an action coach is once we've helped you build the business over the first few months to get it to a point where your customers are paying for us, well then coaching's free for the rest of the time. You know, how long should you have a business coach for? As long as you're staying in business. Hope you enjoyed the lesson. Please pass it on to all your friends and please make sure you get in touch with one of my action coaches and really get working on your business. Thanks.